It is time for a Mr. E update.
Mystery.
Mystery?
Mystery. Mystery.
Mystery?
Mystery.
No, it's Mr. E! So what is up, guys and girls? You may or may not know that I have an Onyx RCR. The Onyx RCR that I have has turn signals that I installed. I opted not to go with the ones that Onyx has available on their website. I went for a larger turn signal thinking that the small ones that Onyx offers wouldn't be bright enough. But after seeing them in person, I was pleasantly surprised. So what am I doing today? The Bandit has turn signals that are awfully similar to that on the Onyx. So I want to mix it up a little bit. I want to find something that's smaller, but also is bright enough so that the people behind me can see whether I'm making a left or a right turn. So that's where we are today. I picked up a set of turn signals from Amazon that a friend recommended. So without any further ado, let's get into this one. So the first thing I'm gonna need are those turn signals. Yep, that's me making noise because the audio got messed up. I have no idea what happened. So you'll be hearing a voiceover. So these are the turn signals. They are small, but they are very bright. And this is the hardware that it comes with. You're looking at two nuts. They are, I want to say 13 millimeters and two lock washers. Okay, let's go over some of the tools that we're going to need for this installation. You're going to need a soldering station, a 13 millimeter open end wrench, as well as a 14 millimeter, a ratchet, an extension, 10 millimeter socket, an Allen key set. I only used a 4 millimeter, a set of side strippers or some type of wire strippers, a razor blade, cutters, wire cutters, a multimeter, zip ties, solder, and heat shrink. Can't forget the heat gun. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is we have to remove the existing turn signal, and to do that we're going to need a 14 millimeter open end wrench. I took off both sides, and then I proceeded to cut the existing zip ties that were nicely placed on this frame. This frame has this little cutout or notches, and they allow you to zip tie wiring, which makes for a cleaner installation. Okay, after the zip ties are removed, I can expose the wires, and I disconnected the waterproof connectors that are there. Now, I do not have a wiring diagram, so what I have to do is to cut the harness. I need to see what color are the wires to try and match them up as I follow them down into the housing that holds the wiring controller and the step down. Okay, so I noticed that right away I'm gonna call them aftermarket. And the reason being is because I'm used to anything that's not from factory to be called aftermarket. Alright, so the ones that are on the Bandit right now, those are going to be called factory. Alright, so I quickly noticed that the aftermarket turn signals have 4 wires. Reason being, one is for ground, and then the other 3 give you 3 different functions in this small sized turn signal. You are given a tail light and a brake light as well. The ones from factory only have 2 wires, so they are just turn signal wires. Okay, just to make things a little bit easier for me, I'm going to remove the back seat. The back seat is held on by 6 10 millimeter nuts. Okay, at some point we will go back to the audio because this was done in 2 days. It was not done in 1 day. And when I reviewed the footage, I quickly noticed that I lost all the audio. And I couldn't go back because that's it. Once you unbox something and you start cutting, there's no going back. I will just show you how one is removed, and through the magic of editing, I'm just going to go jump ahead and take them all out. Save you guys the headache of having to watch a very long video. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Allen screws that need to be removed to expose the controller and all the wiring. Once all the screws are removed, you can gently take out the wiring and all the hardware, because we will be working in there. Okay, there are more zip ties. Alright, so now that all the zip ties are removed, I can follow the harness down into this area and try to find out where it connects and the colors of the wires. Okay, so you're looking at green, red, yellow, and black. Okay, so I am hooking up the multimeter to continuity. Reason being is 2 turn signals have 2 wires on each and they go into one harness. So you have 4 wires leading down to the controller, and I need to figure out which wire is which. So that's what we're gonna do now. Continuity, basically what it is, if you touch the wire on one end with the lead, let's say the red lead, and then you touch the wire on the other end at the harness or the plugs, it should tone, and that's what I'm doing right now, trying to find out which wire is which. Okay, after some testing, I determined the green and the red wire go to the left turn signal. So now I will get the aftermarket turn signal and try to wire it up and see if it works. And I am happy to report it does. So now that I know that the turn signal works, I can mount it onto the frame. And after looking at them mounted, I'm very happy with the results. Not only did I lose audio, but I also lost video. And one of the clips that I lost was how I soldered and extended the wires from the turn signal down towards the controller. So I'm gonna try and recreate it. These are a set of helping hands. Sometimes I use them. This is my soldering station. Flick of the switch. I have it set to 850 degrees. Reason being is I like to solder quickly. Heat it up, heat up the wire, and apply the solder and call it a day. As quick as possible. Alright, so I use my side strippers. Don't know if you saw it, and if you didn't, I'll show you again. Use my side strippers, which do an excellent job of exposing the wire, removing the insulation. Alright, so once I have that done, if my hands were really steady, I could hold them like this and solder just like that. But what I like to do is I take the 2 wires and I twist them around like so, and I will solder right here. This is where the helping hands come in. They'll hold the wire for me. Okay, when you solder, you want a clean tip. That's very important. You want your tip to look something like this. And being that it's hot already, all I do is hold it up to the wire, let that heat up my wire. So all I have to do is take the solder, apply it like that, and the solder will nicely feed itself through the strands, just like that. And immediately I clean off any excess. Once this is soldered, I can go ahead to the next step, which would be applying heat shrink. Heat shrink is a layer of protection over the exposed wire, and it does a real good job of holding itself tightly to the insulation. And I'll show you that now. Heat shrink comes in different sizes. This that I'm using right now should be perfect for this gauge. Let's take a look. Try to slide it over. And cover the exposed piece of wire. After you do that, you get your heat gun, and mine has 2 settings. I'll put it to high so that I can heat this up relatively quickly. And just like that, you hit it on the ends so that they hug the insulation, adding an extra layer of protection. So after I'm done with the heat shrink, I will take the 5 extensions that I made and I wrap them together with electrical tape, and I create a harness. I would be running, there's actually 5 wires because you want independent left and right turn signals. So after you connect all your wires, I use some electrical tape to add a second layer of protection, as well as I'm going to electrical tape the entire wiring, make like a harness and run it down. Okay, I'm really hoping you can see this, but right here in the frame, you're gonna notice that there is an attachment that's welded onto the frame that allows you to put a zip tie through it. And that is exactly what I'm gonna use to run the harness down the frame and secure it. I'll do one on camera and just know for future reference, that's what I'm doing for all of the other mounting points. Alright, so now we are in this area. This is where the multimeter is going to come in, and I did test the turn signal wire in the back to find out which was flashing. I believe the left side turn signal was green, but we'll double check that. And then this should be the right turn signal wires. And this is the harness that went all the way up to those turn signals. All I did was cut it, find the wire colors, and then test when I got here. And that's what we'll do now. What you want to do is you want to turn on your multimeter until you see the V, which is stands for voltage, and you'll see the two lines above it, and that is direct current. Let's see if I can set this up so that you can see. All right, turn my battery on. Be very careful that when you turn the turn signals on, that you do not touch the two wires. You don't want them to bring a positive and negative together. That'll create a short. So I know that's the left side, so I turn on the left turn signal, and right now this is live. So if I bring one of the prongs to the green wire, the red one would be the positive prong, the black is the negative prong. And when you do that, you'll get a reading on your display of negative 12 volts. Now you see the negative, that's important. So what that's telling me is that the wire, which is the wood wire that's connected to the black prong, is the opposite. So instead of this being negative, which is what you're looking for when you're using the black prong, it is a positive. So if I switch them around and I put the red prong on the red wire, I should get a positive 12 volt reading. And if you can see that, that's what we're getting. So I know right now that the positive wire is the red and the green is the negative wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the red wire and I'm going to connect the red wire to my flasher, which is this bad boy, which will make my light flash. One end will go to one post on the flasher, and then the other end will go to the wire that I ran down inside this cavity that holds the controller. All right, what originally I was going to do is solder the wire onto this post over here. If I solder it on there, the heat from the soldering iron is going to heat this up so that the solder can melt. But because these are cheap flashers that I got off of Amazon, I'm afraid that the heat just might ruin the components on the inside. So what I'm opting to do is to use something like this. These guys over here, they're called spades because it's kind of like a hole. They call them a female spade. The male's is just like a pole or a post that sticks out. That's the male spade. The color is blue, representing the gauge of the wire. Unfortunately, these are really thin. I would prefer to use maybe a red or a different color to pretty much secure this wire onto this post over here. But this is what I have, so this is what I'm working with. In the list of tools that I gave earlier, I didn't include these. These are a crimping tool, and what you're going to do is you're going to take I believe it's called the concave side. It's going to line up with the little marking on the inside of the spade. I know you definitely can't see this. I don't have a macro lens, but it's on this side. So you take that end, you put it inside here, and you squeeze down on the wire once it's inside there. And that's what I'm gonna do right now. And that makes a pretty secure connection. It's also insulated. Now on a flasher, there is an in and there is an output on these bad boys. It's labeled L and B, if I'm not mistaken. L might be the load, B is the blinker, but with the magic of editing, I'm going through the instructions real quickly and I'll let you know. Okay, so I had it reversed. B is the input side and L is the output side. So it'll go something like this, and then it'll get connected either to the yellow or the brown, depending on which is the left side, because I know that the red is the left side. Okay, what's really cool about this is this flasher comes with a potentiometer, and technically what that means is it'll adjust how quickly it flashes. So if you turn it to the left, it'll either slow down or speed up in flashing, and that's another reason why I picked these guys up. I don't know if I showed you how these side strippers work, but they're really cool. You just put the wire inside there. You want it as little or as much exposed, you just stick it out on one end. You go like that and bam, it's stripped. How awesome is that? And this is actually gonna get soldered together, so make it a little longer. But really cool, isn't it? Forgot, I'm not soldering. That one was going to the flasher. All right, so we're just about ready to test this bad boy out. So right now, real quickly, I'm not gonna solder this. This is the ground, the green wire is the ground. So I'm just gonna twist them together, pray that it doesn't touch anything or it dangles right there, and turn it on. And I will show you, should work. Oh, turn the battery on, turn my flasher, and she is flashing. You can't see it, but I can see it. But I'll move the camera so that you can see it right now. All right, so while that bad boy is flashing, what I'm going to do is twist that potentiometer that I showed you earlier, and I want to see if the flashing goes faster or slower. Oh, and it just shut off. That's weird. Oh, there we go. Flashing is working, and I actually like that quick flash, so I'm gonna leave it at that. So check this part out. Right side flasher is right here. We have a black and a yellow wire. The yellow wire after testing is the positive side. The black would be the ground. Initially when I ran wires down, I tied the two grounds in together for the turn signal. So I was a little bit concerned because I didn't know if it shared a ground or if the ground was only turned on when the button was turned on. But fortunately for me, it worked. The signal light should be in focus, right? I am recording, am I? Yeah, I'm recording. All right, when I turn it on, she flashes also. Let's see if the flashing pattern matches. And they do not match. So, let me jump on that potentiometer and get it to flash just like the left side. Bear with me. All right, there we go. All right, wrong. A little more. All right, that to me works pretty dang good. Let's move on. Brake light and tail light next. All right, so this is the harness that goes to the tail light and the brake light. But there are a number of wires over here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 wires coming from 2 different plugs. One of the plugs has about 4 wires connected into it, and the other one just has 2. So I'm sure one of these wires from this plug will be for the brake light, and one of these wires will be for the tail light, or vice versa. What I'm going to do though is so that I can test it, because I want to take the plug out. I don't recommend that you do this at home, but if I'm successful and you feel brave and daring, then you can do it too. But this insulation, this heat shrink over here, I'm going to remove it. And then I have a heat shrink, or I'll use electrical tape to put back over it when I'm done. All right, let me show you what I did. I exposed the plug and I disconnected the plug, and it's 2 wires here, and there's actually 2 wires. So these 4 wires must be bridged inside here. 4 of them are either going to, I guess 2 to 2, or I don't know, something along those lines. But I need to expose one of these wires. All right, what I did was I capped off that ground wire, and this wire I know is ground. So what I'm going to use is that ground wire that I capped up as my ground for my lead to test. And then I'll put the positive lead on the other end when the brake light's on, or when the tail light is on, to determine what we have. So I know this is ground, so I'm going to wrap that one up around the ground prong. And forgive me if I'm saying that incorrectly, of my multimeter. And then I will turn on the lights. Lights are on. I'm going to touch that red wire, and I do not see any positive. All right, so hang tight. And let's try a different wire. Let's try the white wire. Using my side strippers to expose the insulation and not cut the wire. Turn the lights back on. The ground prong is hooked up. That's a good sign. Positive 12 volts. Now I'm going to shut the lights off, and the voltage goes away. So the white wire is my taillight wire. Okay, so for this section, what I did was I have 2 wires. One is the brake light to these, and the other is the tail light. So I connected both wires to the white wire that I showed you, and one was brighter than the other. So as you can see, that one right there is the tail light, and if I apply 12 volts to the other lead or the other wire, it gets brighter. So that's my brake light. So right now I'm going to solder that up. Okay, so working with these e-bikes, I have a 12 volt background. I work on cars. This is a little bit different, but pretty similar. 12 volts is 12 volts. Step down is what they use to get from 52 volts in this case down to a 12 volt system. The lighting on this e-bike is all 12 volts. All right, so I have a little dilemma. I thought that when you hit the brake light, you would see 12 volts on one of the wires that were leading towards the brake lights. The green wire is showing about 8 volts, right? And I am going to reach to the brake lever. And if you look at that, it drops down to, let's see, less than a volt. So let's just say that you lose voltage when you hit the brake light, right? And the brake light turns on. The only other wire rests at 12 volts, constant. So it's constantly displaying 12 volts, as you can see down here. All right, so what I can do, maybe in theory, is use a relay. Use a relay to get the brake lights to turn on, these aftermarket brake light or combination brake light, tail light, turn signal system. In theory, what I could do is when the trigger loses polarity, it closes a circuit, which is these 2 over here. Okay, 87A and 30. All right, that is a closed circuit. Hold up, let me try and make sense of this. What I didn't explain is that that is a closed circuit between 87A and 30 right out of the box. So with no triggers, nothing connected to it. You take that bad boy out of the box, and that's a closed circuit. They're connected, 87A and 30. Hope this makes sense. Now let's continue. Closed circuit means that this pole and this pole, they're constantly connected. All right, when these two are triggered with a positive and a negative, it closes this circuit and opens this circuit between 87 and 30. Okay, so when the brake lever is pressed, the green wire turns to a negative, and that will go to 85. The blue wire is constant 12 volts, so that'll go to 86 and 87, and the output will be 30, which will go to the brake light. So remember, 85 and 86, when triggered, closes the circuit between 87 and 30. Okay, so technically, in theory, this should work. And it's clicking. Hold on. It does work. Awesome. It does work. Beautiful. Now I just gotta close it up. Okay, so now I will just wrap everything up and close it up, and the Bandit will be ready to use. Okay, so to some degree everything right now is all buttoned up. I'm just gonna test everything, make sure that everything is functioning the way it's supposed to. Turn the battery on. Okay, brake lights are working. Okay, the tail lights are working. Left signal, right signal. We're good to go. Okay, so now I can begin to close everything up. Whew. Okay, so thankfully I was able to get everything to fit inside there. It wasn't that big of a struggle, but there is a bird's nest of wires in here. But what I like is that it's tucked away. Once that cover is on, you'll never know. I got the flashers in there and the relay inside here, and this should be able to close up without a problem. And that we're gonna do right now. All right, so just like that, everything is hidden and out of the way. The only thing that is left is to tighten these Allens and put the seat back on, and we should be good to go. I tell you, the more time that I spend with the Bandit, the more I like it. It's very easy to work on, and with this large compartment over here hiding all the wires, you would never know that there was a bird's nest inside there. Off to the seat. All right, so she is done. She is complete. There are no more of these guys sticking out the sides. We have tail lights. We have right blinker. We have left blinker. We have brake lights. All in all, I am pleased with the installation. And there you have it, installation complete. And that brings this episode to an end. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't hesitate. Smash that like button. Leave a comment. I get back to everybody. And if you want, please subscribe. So until the next video, peace out, everybody.